Chesterton. If there was a man more reviled in all of England, hated by both rebels and collaborators alike, we have yet to find him. A fascist demagogue, I don't think this is going to go well for him. So low he could walk under a Dachshund's belly. The head of a collaborationist secret police, head of a Black Church parliamentary group during the war. Alright, Chesterton. I think you're one for the squad. Oh, keep doing this. Right, well at least we should flip Lancashire after this. Hopefully. Oh, and my military, I've been neglecting as well, so we'll keep dumping our vast political power into here to try and get our high command being loyal and efficient. Good. What's the one I was thinking of? Is it like a colonial trade mod or Spunk, you might know the name of it. It's been recommended for banished. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But that's supposed to be really good. But yeah, you probably, it's a fair point, jump onto the workshop page and you'll see the top ones. Chesterton shuffled into the room escorted by 2 guards, his eyes darting from judge to judge. A low murmur erupted throughout the room as the court glared at the old man in disgust and fury. He sat beside the defence team, who were barely making eye contact. Chesterton, you stand here in front of all of England accused of most heinous crimes. How do you plead? Not guilty. Always not guilty. The defence unenthusiastically referred to his service as a veteran in both world wars, fighting bravely against the Germans in Africa during both bloody conflicts. By engaging in collaboration, he sought to protect England from the Germans and improve the broken political system that had been left behind by the failures of the pre-war government. The prosecution naturally had a field day. They accused Chesterton of being a proud, self-proclaimed English fascist and former confidant of Oswald Mosley. A vile man. Right, he's 100% going to the gallows. Oh, this actually changes our support. Even though this is going to hurt our election chances, I'm going to kill him anyway. He's one man that deserves to go. Use my Arc Atlas and Arma 3. Well, there's neither of those games I have played. Colonial Charter, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. I was watching obviously random stream a few weeks ago. They were going on about it. It looked pretty cool. Again, I've not played the game in years. Too many good games, not enough time. Problem of the world these days. The Artful Dodger was not the fanciest of pubs, and certainly his current clientele were anything but the models of English high society. Seated around a number of tables near the banquet pub were some 5 dozen men and perhaps half as many women. 2 or 1 grizzled and wet from braving rains for the occasion. Some wore little red sashes on arms, and a few wore old uniforms from wars past. An odd little mix of communists and a few ideologies beside. Finally, at 7 PM, they all toasted their drinks, to comrades lost and friends wounded, to ideas and men executed for their part in the event so many years ago. Similar gatherings of London uprising veterans were occurring across England. Though outside the official event, this was probably the largest group of actual participants in London. Germans hadn't been inclined to be merciful after all. Mostly the men and women sitting at the back of the pub remembered the ideals and hopes which had led them to moment of polished speech the night before it began, and the smiles of the men long gone. I suspect only a scant 3,000 of a 10,000 strong force actually escaped the Germans, corralling the fighters into Cable Street, each of men and women toasting fallen friends, and it was amongst those quick, strong, or lucky enough to avoid that carnal house. Perhaps then it wasn't surprising London uprising. It was not something remembered fondly by those who fought in it, but as a group of men and women exited the pub, they headed their separate ways into a free England they could finally feel like their sacrifices were worth it. When you say that, I'm still not going communist. A fascist's fate. Let English fascism die with him. Which won't have helped our election chances, but we have swung Lancashire, which is good. What should we work on next? We're pretty far. Oh, here we're pretty close. Oh no, no, we're not. We're a distant third. Let's go for London though. That seems pretty pretty important. Keep working on those, and we've got someone else to put to trial. Templar Carver Gibbs Baker. Their names are numerous, but one thing that unites them all: they were commissioned generals in the collaborationist army, and now we have to judge them for atrocities committed under their commands. They have no future in our army, that much is clear. But how far do we want to punish them? Some are arguing only blood can answer for blood. Others are arguing that a violent retaliation against these men is not who we are, and that more proportionate punishments should be considered. Yeah, I'm the same. I try not to be too, I don't know, I suppose PG-13, I suppose that's the kind of thing you go for. It seems to get the most. Occasional swear words are fine, but let's not go ham. I think most streamers I watch are pretty much the same. That's cool that you were a sailor. What, were you kind of merchant or, the other one? Navy, that's the word I'm looking for. Trial of Generals. So the military officers piled into the room, stiff posture and conference strides. So we've got Field Marshal Gerald Templar. Each and every one pled not guilty. What a surprise. Defence emphasised their service records, appealing to their status as honourable war veterans. Templar echoed such sentiments himself, drawing strict contrast between his generals and the likes of Chesterton. While the fascists were serving their own twisted ambitions, he claimed, generals were serving their families, their wives, and their children and their grandchildren, those who would have been slaughtered if any of them dared join forces with the rebel. So once again, divided jury. We can... So apparently now the socialist ones exiled them. We can kill them all, which gets a movement for Sterling's movement support the army. We can just send them out in the military, which I think we're going to do. I'd rather banish them, but I want the support increase. I'm feeling somewhat pressure. Ah, that's cool, man. How long are we in for? I've got some family serving in the Navy. Absolutely love it, they must admit. But it seems a very different lifestyle. Okay, we're not 66 yet, so our infantry tech is caught up. Improved anti-air, we're not building any anti-air. What about artillery? I think we're already researching that. Oh, we might actually be where we need to be, although I suspect our doctrines are behind. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going with that. The March of the Traitors. With their broken spirits, the row of inmates advanced to a giant metal door, looking at them with contempt. The guards supervised the whole ordeal, some walking crestfallen, ashamed of betraying their nation. Others marched with their heads held high, confident of having done the right thing. Then they're the ones doing the small talk and joking about their situation. After all, it was a natural result of losing the conflict. Regardless of how they took it, they all shared the same fate. After being discharged from the service, some officers just went to their homes. However, others had committed more severe crimes against the nation. Now will they be forced to reconstruct the country they helped to destroy. As inmates entered the camps, the guards assigned a task to each of them. Field Marshal Templar chuckled a bit as he resignedly complied. After all, following orders is what a soldier does best. Are you talking about viewing with different countries? I can get limited view on everyone else, same as in the base game, so you can kind of see who the allies are, and if you get spying up, although you don't do a lot in this game, you can see what everyone else is up to. But it's a pretty different world from what we know. Yeah. I don't know if you've played Hearts of Iron 4 at all, which is also what it's based on, but I say this is almost like it's almost like story-driven using the system. It's really interesting. Very different from from the other Endzone stuff I've been streaming. We're up to now. Last one, the Liberal. Regional modelling. By all accounts of those who knew him, he should have not joined the collaborationists. One of the most prominent voices in the government while in Parliament, many similar beliefs joined the rebels when the war broke out, yet he betrayed them and stayed with the collabs. Now he's brought before us to defend his decision. He's easily the most controversial of the defendants we tried, however. Aside from aforementioned break with his colleagues and friends, he hasn't done anything particularly interesting. Some still want to punish him. We shall see. That was quick. Right. So we are... Slap him with whatever, he'll be pardoned anyway. We're not going to do anything, we're going to slap on the rest. It seems like getting him off lightly, but I want to do it because I would like to increase the support. NDL's New Whigs, Democrats and Patriots. Cool. Yeah, so this mod's also almost nothing like the base game actually, where it's much more focused on building your economy and fighting wars, whereas it also has much more of a story-driven element to it. You'll spend a lot more time probably staring at front lines and microing troops. But it's also, I don't belittle it, it's a very good game, just very different. Oh, the Africa shield is falling apart, so that was the... well, it's still there actually. So the African colonies. They look healthy enough, if you ask me. Unless they're about to fracture. Not too much movement over in Russia still. Oh, Kokshetau seems to be doing another despot. And we've got, yeah, Nat Socialists are beating other Nat Socialists. So they're all fascists, whichever way you look. I have not been doing enough of these, so let's keep going for London. Important victory, and we can do the gavel strikes. There it goes. It's done. The Oxford trials have concluded, and now we merely await the sentence. Throughout these trials, we've seen the very worst in the collaborationist government and its military dogs had to offer. We've heard tell of countless crimes, and even more horrific goings-ons in the dark underbelly of a collaborationist regime. But the sentence shall apportion guilt only to those deserving. Our actions beforehand could well affect the outcome significantly. We only hope that the international community sees the trials are just or at least fair. If not, we may have made a miscalculation. Oh, tripping with my tongue there. So you streaming tonight, Optimus? I don't know how frequently you stream these days. Reginald Modelling. Where's he off to? Ah, he's just come in. Okay. New politician. Fine. Couple days and we can go again. We should have London in control. Italian Levant has been partitioned. Well, that's never gone badly before, has it? So who have we now got? Oh, we have the Republic of Israel, actually. Okay. They are not a bit split up. They do not have Jerusalem. Okay, interesting. I'm sure that will not lead to any kind of conflict. Citizenship reborn. One man, one vote. Though now women can vote as well. The saying might need to be updated somewhat. One person, one vote doesn't quite run off the tongue so well. Either way, the National Democratic League and the Socialist Labour Party now prepare to face off in the first democratic election held on English soil in 2 decades. At stake is the future of the monarchy, the economy and the reconstruction process. As well, the assorted reforms for each party says they will or won't enact, but it shall be some shady council of military men who decide how this happens. It shall be the people and the people alone. This is what we fought for, a free and independent England. Let us enjoy it whilst we can. So we changed our immigration law for some reason. Fair enough. Oh yeah, citizenship, I understand. Opening our doors slightly. Which makes sense. Get the people that we need, and hopefully this will win us London if we can push that up. So how many days a week do you stream then? So if I unpause it. Don't want to use my mills, keep them dockyards planes. No, I'll just leave everything ticking over. We are slowly trying to pay off some of this debt, which we will use our liquid reserves to do so. Although we're making a tiny, tiny dent in it. Months of ads, speeches and rallies, debates, arguments and insults. Shouting and heated discussion, and now it all comes down to this, the choice of the people of England. Both parties have been battling hard to ensure their victory at the polls. Could they have done more? Could some missteps have been avoided? Could this campaign have been concluded more positively? Perhaps. Both campaigns have done whatever they could to ensure victory in the coming elections. Nothing less than the very future of the country is at stake. After the ballots are cast, the people of England scurry home to turn on their television's rails to see who the winner is. Many have predictions, many have biases and hopes, others have polls and samples behind their thinking. There's only one way to know for sure what has happened, and that's to count votes. And the NDL win elections. Fantastic. We are indeed going to go for a... well, this will change, and we should be a constitutional monarchy, I believe. Or whatever this game calls it. You have no idea how often you stream. Fair enough. You don't want to burn out, so mostly evenings after work for about 3 hours. That's... well, I was going to say mostly evenings rather than most evenings. Yeah, it's the same. It can, you know, although it's playing games, you also sit and chatting for 3 hours at a time. So it does take a bit of energy and a toll. So yeah, I do 3 days a week at the minute, and that's enough. And I know you're never going to create a massive following or break into Twitch, since, but you know, we've got real life, we've got families, we've got stuff like that. So a small streamer I will happily be. Victory of the NDL. First election in England after the war, and the first truly free one since 1935, would be a momentous one. 2 years of hardship and deprivation, the people of England would have their say, and the world waited with bated breath, fearing the worst from a people vengeful and angry. Would Stirling, the reactionary leader of the SES, be the first English PM? Or would the red banner of a communist Labour Party fly in the halls of Parliament? Neither happened. Instead, the centre-right coalition of the NDL won the hearts of the voters. Headed up by Jellicoe, a former commando diplomat and the son of a hero of Jutland, the party promised a return to England of old, one of the free markets and a strong economy, ruled by the daughter of George VI, and end up with the same queen, but also an England that would make the necessary social changes and economic reforms to keep up with the modern era, and the glowing endorsement of Claude Auchinleck was enough to seal the deal. Let us go forward together. Hopefully we get a tag change. Jellicoe is our PM, and there we go. Slight change with 3 lions and a flag. So we are conservative democracy. That's what they're going to call it. Should get a whole new focus tree as well. Okay, so our austerity is over. What's happened here? The recognition of Scottish independence led a whole host of other things to be decided by England. Who would be the ambassador? Where would trade agreements go? Where should the embassy go? Edinburgh didn't have a number of embassy buildings like London had, especially since nations refused to see them as legitimate government until recently. They did have a series of former consulates from before the Second World War, and many nations used those to conduct business. England wanted a bit more than that, however. They wanted something a bit better, more imposing. Get the message to Scotland that they were top dogs in this relationship. Unfortunately, large ominous buildings are a bit rare commodity in Edinburgh at the moment, and many people didn't want to spend money on a new structure that might not be completed until Scotland rejoined the UK. We decided to compromise and purchase a pre-existing structure that was close to Scotland's government. Found what needed into a building next to the old Parliament House in Edinburgh. And it looked like an embassy, it had space for one, it was close enough to get the message across, and so the English set up shop. It was absolutely perfect. Except for the US embassy being next door and closer to the Scottish government. Always second fiddle to Billy Yanks. I wonder what building they're talking about actually. Could be like Holyrood Palace. Because presumably, independent Scotland has no need for old monarch buildings. Aha! So now we have Huge Street. Let's look at this then. So we can bring back the Queen. Excellent. And then we can do a couple of things. What it looks like building economy. What league is this? So it's getting us kind of political power and party support. Alright. Some international recognition over there. Is there some way we can reunite the UK in here? That's infrastructure. And reforming the armed forces. Not yet. Maybe once we've got the democratic England we can get the others back in the fold. So what can we start off with? We can do Secret Service, or let's rush down and get the Queen. Why not? to your drink first. Votes have been counted, and the people have made their will clear. For the first time in almost 3 decades, a free and fair election has been held in England, and the people have chosen. They've chosen freedom, democracy, and the NDL. We should unify the government, rebuild the nation, improve our standing home and abroad, and transform England and the British Isles. Alright, dude. Oh, and we can finally appoint some ministers. Cool. What have we got? Now you're saying I can appoint some ministers. But you're not giving me a choice. Alright, maybe I need to unlock some of them. You lied to me, game. So our high command is still somewhat inefficient. What mic am I using? I have an 80-2020 USB. Seemed like a pretty good compromise between quality and not spending a ridiculous amount of money. What about yourself? What do you use? And then we have scales of democracy, so between the conservatives, liberals, and moderates. Fine, okay, so we need to try and keep it balanced. Otherwise, we're going to get essentially an uprising from one side of our party. Interesting. Okay, so that just... Whigs, Patriots... Are the Whigs bid Liberals then, and Patriots Conservative? Oh, it's probably the other way around, actually. Tax cuts. Base stability, though, okay. State will experience a medium increase in the economic output of domestic jobs. Alright, a lot of things to play around with. Presumably these are going to start moving on their own, otherwise I don't see much reason to unbalance the scales. And presumably this will disappear in a moment. Okay, cool. Let's, well, we might as well take this one for now. Doesn't swing us too far. The one who never surrendered. The old man knew the audience listening to his address was entranced. That was what he had hoped for. His mind had occasional fears on the flight from Canada, but he was not well respected here, but his beloved country had writ him off a miserable failure. Upon landing, the mood was anything but, and he visited the House of Commons for what he knew was the last time. He knew this would be his greatest triumph on the site of his many great ones. He continued, "We lay prostrate a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our arts, our history were gone and finished and liquidated." Very different is the mood today. England, other nations thought, had drawn a sponge across our slate, but instead our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching and no thought of giving in. But what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, we ourselves never doubted it. We now find the invader, with all his treachery and greed, lies subdued. For everyone, this is the lesson. Never give in. His voice raised as he reached the crescendo of his speech. Never, never, never in nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in. Tip to convictions of honour and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. These past months have seen catastrophic events throughout the world. These have been the greatest month our country have ever lived. We must thank God that we've been allowed to play a part in making these days memorable in the history of our race. Closing, he announced, "Advance Britannia, long live the cause of freedom, and God save the Queen." Ah, good old Churchill. There was a man. An absolute, a very high-functioning alcoholic. One that came at the right time for Britain. Alright, I'm just rid of that. Don't need to do any of these things. How is our equipment deficit? Strangely, it's getting bigger. Fine. How much are we producing a day of those things? 1 a day. That's going to take quite a while to overcome. Once our economy is sorted, I do need to increase that. But we are running a deficit when we're not in an austerity mode, which is unfortunate. Is 1 austerity enough? 1 austerity is enough. Okay, NDL triumphant. Gain base stability. So there's uprisings in Barcelona, so that's part of the Iberian Union playthrough. We have finished our focus. Right, next one. Got a meeting with St. John Stevas or a meeting with Powell. Ah, here's our ministers here. Okay. Norman St. John Stevas leads the Liberal Democratic wing of the National Democratic League. While they may have some social unacceptable preferences, we can't ignore his influence. He's one of the few people able to rally the inner city populations against the SLP. Not only will we need to entertain some of his more liberal ideas regarding social issues, we also need to balance between him and Enoch Powell. These two men and their respective factions will not play nicely with each other. It's us to keep the party unified. I know nothing about this person in real life. Tech. Ah, more artillery. Which we can barely afford to build, but hey ho. I think that's the last support weapon tech we had going. Indeed it was. I wonder if it's time for actually industry stuff, probably. Yes it is, let's go... which one first? Production, yeah. More efficient factories and more output from factories. That will help overcome the deficit. And there we go. St. John Stevas has joined our cabinet. Minister of Security. Oh, we should... I need to go automatically. It gives us 5% political power. Make subversive activities more efficient. Alright, and people don't like us, so don't trade with us. Interesting. Interesting. At least flipped from fascist to democratic. Well, doesn't look that democratic, Italy. Vidus has resigned. Oh. Democracy. Well, we might find ourselves some allies who bolster against the mighty fascists, unfortunately. Hopefully we can get a non-fascist reunification of Russia. Mental camera control there. Okay, next up. Powell. Few figures more controversial in England than Enoch Powell. Despite his problematic views on religious freedoms and his complicated thoughts on immigration, he still has a significant amount of influence in the country. So you're going to become our security minister. And just like that. So we get division recovery rate and plus 5% stability. So he's the authoritarian Democrat and he's the Liberal Democracy. Okay. I'm gotta keep ourselves balanced. We can manage that. A chat with Claude. Claude Auchinleck, the father of NDL, the leader of Her Majesty's most loyal resistance and the rebellion. There's no more prominent individual in England, or maybe even the Isles. He is the man who chose Jellicoe to lead the NDL, and as such, it's only right and proper that we consult with him about the future of the country. We can fish out his insights and further secure his backing. After all, he put us here. How hard would it be for him to put someone else in our place? So I wonder, what role Auchinleck has, if any, then. Right, our military's still not great. We're gaining pop, which is good, and we've got a promising future, which doesn't do anything at the moment. Oh, we can take some more of these. So, independent Pakistan, cool. Just increase loyalty, that sounds good. Mildly decrease efficiency for loyalty, that's not what we want. Efficiency is what we need. And we'll make that trade. Good. We're somewhat loyal, somewhat efficient. All round average. We should have a Pakistan. No, no Bangladesh though. Who's this Azad Hind government? Authoritarian Democrats. And so what's India? Oh, socialist leanings. Signed Mandate of Siberia, declared war on the Presidium of Supreme Soviet. Okay. But this one. I'm not sure, but a war with these two guys. So that looks like Russian unification continues. Jellicoe met up with Auchinleck at the end of the busiest day of his life. Auchinleck had been expecting him. A chair had been pulled beside a table and a glass of something had been placed next to it. Jellicoe did not mind what had been poured so long as it was strong. How long do you think it can last? Auchinleck asked the Prime Minister rather bluntly. If I'm to be honest, Claude, sometime between the end of today and the next election. I fear such things are out of our control. The way I see it, George, we have the last hope this country has. Wilson may personally be committed to democracy, but God knows what the rest of SLP would do. Besides, we both know he has less of a grip on his party than you have on the League. You must simply maintain the NDL, George. The future of all England depends on it. Jellicoe knew Auchinleck was right, and he could not shift the ever-present fear that he could not make it, and he would not be enough. That's why we get ourselves a queen. And we have flag waving and ceremonies, and all your problems go away. The time has now come for Elizabeth Windsor to take the crown. The return of the Queen should be a momentous, joyous occasion, but is marred by a pallid cloud. A question still hangs thick over the coronation. What is to be done about the collaborator, the puppet? What is to be done about the traitor king? What is to be done about Edward VIII? There are many in the country and the party with differing views and opinions on this matter. Only once this question has been answered can she be crowned Elizabeth II, Queen of England. Just make him abdicate and exile him. I don't think murdering a king's going to do very much for us. Man, we need more fuel. I might as well trade for it. We've got a spare factory. Where's my trade? This one? Somebody, give me oil. Who should we trade with? Let's trade with Canada. Old buddy, old pal. For a brief moment, Jellicoe thought that the radicals did have a point when they suggested shooting Edward. From an impartial point of view, it was simpler. Jellicoe sighed and came back to reality. Edward would live. Really, all the major decisions were made by Berlin, who kept Edward as a figurehead, and any of the minor decisions were made by people under him who hated his guts. And there was a bit of hesitation within the to execute a close family member of the Queen anyway, so the sad sap would keep his head. Still the question of what to do with him. Exile him? That was an option. Put him as far away from Ireland as possible. Some said it was too much. He could be allowed to stay if his titles were stripped. Without his titles he'd be nothing. But he would also be nothing. He was permanently kicked out of the kingdom. But what was the difference? Both put him out of the picture just as well as the other. But still, there was a massive debate about it. Exile was something out of 1700. Stripping his titles was too lenient. He could be doing something sneaky if he was put outside English jurisdiction. He might do something sneaky if he had access to London. Might just be happy to be out of the picture anyway and not make a move. God damn it, he was tired of this. He was Prime Minister and he'd solve the issue once and for all. And Edward... I think we'll just strip his titles and make him a common man. Don't worry about it, Optimist. You have no obligation here. I don't know. So, speaking of stripping titles and becoming a common man, I was randomly reading about Puki, who was the last emperor of China in the World War and then into the 60s, and he ended up becoming just a common man. He was like a street sweeper at the end during the communist regime. Mental. Quite a change he went through over a fair long time. He had to readjust from being an emperor to being a peasant, essentially. I think we're about to have our coronation. Whoever came up with the idea to televise this deserved a knighthood, Jellicoe thought. Jet aircraft were prepared to fly the tape as soon as it was broadcast to Canada and Australia. TV sets were flying off the shelves, and everyone not in the crowd outside was gathered around a television set for the duration of the ceremony. Everyone would see the coronation, and everyone could be part of it. Not to say this had dampened attendance among the procession route. Everyone wanted to see the new Queen in person, riding with her husband in a gilded carriage, with her newly incorporated royal guards in front and behind her, and the reception was mostly positive. The SLP had elements who were going to protest the ceremony, but they'd been drowned out by the cheers of the onlookers and the martial music. No disruptions on the route happened, which was Jellicoe's main concern. The ceremony began with the Queen entering Westminster Abbey to the choir singing "I Was Glad." Once she'd seated herself on the chair of the estate, the religious paraphernalia and the coronation garments were brought in. Then came the first necessary step. The Queen stood next to King Edward's chairs. "Sirs," said Archbishop of Canterbury, "I present unto you Queen Elizabeth, your undoubted Queen. Wherefore all you are to come this day to your homage and service, are you willing to do the same?" God save the Queen. Do we get a change? Where's my ministers gone? Why have they vanished? Ah, there we go. That's interesting. Right clicking brings up that. I'm going to click on my flag. Anyway, good to know. Ah, no picture of Lizzie. Never mind. Never mind. We know she's there and that's all that matters. So we can do a conference. I think rebuilding's probably better. Although I feel like we probably want to do the Secret Service stuff because it's going to be here for a reason. Let's grab us. Let's set up a. Was it MI6? There you go. No contradiction greater than Kim Philby can be found. Okay. Philby is a firm believer in absolute annihilation of the enemies of the working class. Interesting. He also leads the Secret Intelligence Service better than anyone else could. To remove him would be near impossible, and would have made a blow to the young service. We must treat this affair delicately, like capturing a butterfly. We can neither tighten our grip too hard nor slacken it up too much. Yeah, you don't really want a hardcore socialist in charge of MI6. That will not end well for our country. What do I want to look at? I want to look at decisions. We're still balanced. No danger. Even scoot them up a wee bit. There you go. Ah, we can just take power away from them both. That's handy. I don't have infinite political power anymore though. So I will have to be careful with that. I suppose that's why you want to go down the NDL route. Get more political power to help balance things. Okay, I see how it's been panned out. Rook hole consolidation. Don't know what that is, but it doesn't matter. And all the things. Here we go. The cell's door opened loudly, startling the figure hunched over a small desk. He put down the pen he was holding and looked at the visitors. It wasn't time for his meal. When he saw it was, he straightened his posture, but refused to stand to greet her. "Niece," came his tired voice, "I would never have expected you to visit me." So I'm assuming this is King Edward and Queen Elizabeth. Or not King Edward, Mr. Windsor now. "Uncle," the young woman answered in a firm tone, without an ounce of sweetness for her kin. "I came to make sure you're being treated right." I am indeed well treated, considered the circumstances," was the tired answer. Had he always been so sad, so empty? The woman remembered his jovial... She must be her, jovial uncle when he played with her. Always laughing, ready to have fun. Now he was an empty shell, wrinkles bringing his once regal features down like ropes tearing down the statue of a tyrant. Despite her efforts, she voiced her innermost thoughts. "Why did you do all this? Why was your thirst for power so great you turned into that monster's lapdog?" Hunger for power? The laugh, so full of scorn, so different from the old ones, it almost scarred her. "Elizabeth, in all my life I never held an ounce of power. They took away my crown, my freedom, his voice cracked. "They wanted to take away my heart, but I didn't let them take that. And look where this brought you. You betrayed the kingdom, you betrayed my father, She stopped when she saw her Uncle eye turn hollow. "You don't know what I suffered, Elizabeth. I took it all to save my people. I didn't betray them. If it hadn't been for me, London would be rubble by now." The Queen scoffed. "I see you're well, Uncle. I will take my leave now." We'll just skip that one. Okay, trouble with Philby. Working tirelessly behind the scenes of even the most shadowy aspects of England's inner workings, Kim Philby has wormed his way into every corner of British politics. The man is a natural-born spy, an enigma in and of himself. No one can be sure of his true intentions. The predicament we face is the support he receives from anyone and everyone who matters, across both sides of the Commons and beyond. Jellicoe himself has his own doubts as to whether or not the man could really be as bad as some claim. Nevertheless, Philby is an indomitable figure, and his control over the SIS only adds to the damage he could do to England. His true motives are yet to be uncovered, but once the truth is found out, we can deal with him for good. There we go. We got internal surveillance and internal gathering. Let's do it.